If there's a type of person who are admired the most in the world, it's the person who's able to get things done without even trying. The student that aces the final exam without studying. The model who wakes up in the morning with a perfect hair. Or the actor who is hardly caught acting on screen. If there is one name that comes to your mind when talking about the art of effortlessness from contemporary Bengali cinema, it has to be Ritwick Chakraborty. A performer who hardly performs but behaves. A magician who pulls out his trick without ever displaying his wand. He's a genius. How many times have we heard that said for Ritwick? Perhaps every time there's a new film release. But as we try to work on this video essay and look back at his filmography, as we try to connect with him over phone for calls for the last few months, for a conversation, or as we look at his social media feeds, there's this feeling that the man is much more than a genius. Not coming out of a vacuum with immense talent alone. It is the talent combined with acute awareness of his surroundings and his perseverance, not necessarily belonging to a particular role, but to life itself. That makes Ritwick Chakraborty who he is. This is an old video that was blocked by YouTube earlier that we try to revamp once more in our love for Ritwick Chakraborty. In his acclaimed movie Mayar Jonjal, Ritwick effortlessly puts on a lungi and gets rid of his trousers while passing on the dream of a better future to his wife. The congeniality reminds of the brother or uncle back home. In Bakita Bektigoto, when we watch him waiting for hours at the bus stop, the familiar gestures make you feel that he himself might have done this many a times in life. In the short Bishwash Nao Korte Paren, when the fourth wall breaking camera inquires from the young Ritwick about his whereabouts, anyone unknown to the actor would think of him as a non-actor, thanks to his overwhelmed looks at the camera. And in the lesser known Pinky I Love You, where Ritwick plays a man who is a hero in his dreams but a coward in real life, he represents so many of us. In his best works, Ritwick Chakraborty plays the Shadharan Manush, the common man, one within the crowd, the most difficult ones to paint on screen, bereft of any groundbreaking signatures. And to understand the genesis of these performances, we might have to look back at the formative years, where the magic began to unfold. Ritwick worked as an assistant to a magician and ventriloquist at a very young age, travelled from one village to another. Then, as a representative from College Street publishers to schools of interior Bengal, followed by being a medical representative. And then came the manifestation of the hidden desires in the form of theatre, TV and films. The root of Ritwick's grounded characters perhaps lies in this humble past, in his awareness of the society, culture and people he represents on screen. Ritwick pours his heart and soul into his performances, and yet magically the effort doesn't reflect as a labour of love in his performances, but more as a deeply personal connect with the character, a Bektigoto Byapar. Among his multiple prowesses, diction is always on point, a rarity in the industry these days. Ritwick walks, smiles, cries and talks in Bengali, which is exhilarating to watch in Bangla cinema. Bengali cinema is hardly Bengali anymore. That is a discussion for another day. For now, let's stick to the vibrant symbol of Bangaliana we wish to celebrate, Ritwick Chakraborty. Great wine deserves a great chalice. A great actor deserves a wonderful director. Pradipta Bhattacharya is that chalice through which Ritwick has intoxicated us the most. Pradipta himself is a distinct voice of deviation and dissent from the otherwise basic and disinteresting content being factory produced in the Bengali film industry. And it's in their mutual rooted attachments that the collaborations strike. The entire theme and social satire of Bishwash Nao Korte Paren comes across through Ritwick's intercut monologues, him talking to others over the phone as we hear only his side of the calls. We often hear how actors can struggle when they do not have a co-star in a scene to respond and react. And here we have Ritwick carrying the entire shot, reacting to empty rooms, open balconies, terraces, and a muted phone. The man gets himself imbibed into the surroundings and absorbed inside the skin of his character to such an extent that he blends into the color and texture of the scene he features in. Time and again you will find Ritwick Chakraborty holding on to scenes through his gestures alone, just reacting to his environment. He often makes dialogues redundant at a time when Bengali cinema is suffering from a cacophony of verbal exchanges, misplaced punchlines, and monotonous dialogue-based spoon-feeding of rich curry with nothing but oil, killing every scope for imagination. Ritwik is that spark of imagination, something only great actors can accomplish, as the audience takes cue from his body language and subtle touches, imagines what his character might be doing between two frames as we relate them to replicas in real life. So it's no surprise that Ritwik is the leading man in Aditya Bikram Sengupta's internationally acclaimed Asha Jawar Majhe, a film without dialogues built only upon visual aesthetics. Aforementioned believability in performances or relatability of characters might just be the surface level of the actor Ritwik. Then comes the variation he creates in characters of similar shades. Consider the helplessness of Chadu in Mayar Jonjal, Partho in Jeshtoputro, and the musician in The Violin Player. All three are characters who are economically challenged, and Ritwik appears in almost similar get-ups, and yet they are so different. In Mayar Jonjal, you see his face hanging in most of his early scenes. The battered ego of the male, the ever-depleting control over situations, comes across from the face even before the dialogues are spoken. And then when things turn somewhat better, the same hanging face gets a tint of glow. The face also becomes a symbol of present state of the Communist Party in Bengal, as director Indranil Roy Choudhury subtly suggests in Making Chadu, an old-time party cadre. It is the same background of the character Partho that Ritwik so beautifully brings out in Jeshtoputro. Sheer pain, craving for acknowledgement, and injustice of reality portrayed in all his scenes that shout out the hunger of an unrecognized theatre artist. Partho isn't surrendering to his situation like Chadu, too proud of his art to even ask for help. The frequent snaps at his brother directly or indirectly bring out the agony inside Partho, and the film that started as a tale of sibling tensions goes on to become the quintessential conflict between art for show and art for soul. Ritwik elevates the script itself with performances that help you read between the lines and shape up subtexts that you might have missed in the hands of any other actor. Ritwik's ability to carry scenes alone doesn't mean there's not much to celebrate in his chemistry with co-actors. Let us go back to Kaushik Ganguly's Jeshtoputro, where his chemistry with Prosenjit Chatterjee brings out the best from the superstar in the recent past. I envy Ritwik as an actor. We have heard Prosenjit say, and every time the two actors share screen in the film, we understand what he means. The two long scenes of the verbal duel keep on adding meta layers for the film that calls for a different discussion. But do note Ritwik's minimalistic gestures when Prosenjit is delivering his dialogues. He's listening and reacting in silence, the core basis of chemistry between actors that boosts each other's performances. You see the same chemistry in Queer Relationship Ritwik's Madhu shares with Riddhi's Putti in Nagarkirtan, another film by Kaushik Ganguly. Look at the way Madhu looks at Putti, straight in his eyes, every time they are close to each other. The curiosity to know Putti's mind and body, the attraction towards him, which is a surprise for Madhu himself, and the dilemma to give in to this ever-growing pull towards Putti are all visible in Ritwik's eyes. Look at him shifting his eyes when Putti takes off his wig as the dilemma grows stronger inside. He fears himself, he resists his own acceptance, and later, when this acceptance is complete, look at Madhu's tender touches on Putti's body as Nagarkirtan becomes one of the most sensuous attempts in Indian cinema. Take that for an actor who also thrives in soliloquies. What can we say? So, if it's all about the humble past, from where does the authenticity of Madhu come? Or for that matter, the chef in a French restaurant in Machet Chhol, or the psycho in Vinchida, or Bhitu? We feel that it is in his awareness of his society, connection to his milieu, and openness to observe and learn. He's an accomplished actor after all. We had approached Ritwik for a discussion on Satyajit Ray's Obhijan, and he responded that he might not have enough time to rewatch the film, and without doing that, it would be unfair to converse. Well, we might not have got the conversation, but we get the man. So while we tag Ritwik as the effortless one as he performs, his efforts might not be considered based on the shooting process alone. His efforts, or for that matter, organic way of staying connected to his time and space, is what he taps on in each of his films. The look of his characters or the signature smirk in dialogue delivery remain the same, but the characters differ as Ritwick brings out the differential thoughts going inside their heads. His receding hairline doesn't bother him. In fact, he makes use of it to pull through an entire film. He is comfortable in his vests, cotton shirts, and bicycle on screen, while most contemporaries flung jackets and jeeps. He represents his people on screen, the Bengalis, often lazy, highly egoist, and unparalleled romantics. It's not in the looks but in the dreams his characters share. It is these dreams that we find in Tarok, the folly artist in Shobdo, another Kaushik Ganguly film that was a turning point in Ritwik's career. A surreal performance that covers every attribute of the actor we spoke about this far. The eyes of the dreamer, the ego of the unsung, the comfort in the basics, the chemistry or the lack of it that brings out the crisis of the character. His thoughts, his art, his love for family, his emphasis on sanity and serenity as evident from his infrequent social media feeds is the source of the genius we watch on screen. The genius who continues to be the common man and yet the hero. The unlikely one. The one we resonate with. And that is why even when he is playing a religious fanatic in his latest release, Shotti Bole Shotti Kichu Nei, he can still voice the complex origins of his fanaticism without any underlining. The effort is not in playing a character. The effort is in empathizing with similar characters in life. The effort is in retaining basic human qualities on the face of attention and provocations. The effort is in remaining a grounded human being. We love you, Ritwik.